Welcome back. You're listening to the discussion Modern Government, Emerging Trends in Intelligent Automation in a Time of Rapid Change, sponsored by KPMG on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Kirk Everson, the Principal and Government Intelligent Automation Leader at KPMG. Kirk, before break, we're talking about how kind of COVID has impacted the use of intelligent automation, how agencies have really moved toward bringing more of this in. And you mentioned low-code platforms as another approach to getting intelligent automation moving maybe more quickly. Let's go down that path a little bit. What are you seeing around low-code, no-code platforms, and why is that so important to agencies? Again, continued use, continued expansion of intelligent automation.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. I think one of the lessons learned that COVID taught us was, as a federal agency with missions to support either citizens or their own employees or other stakeholders, the need to pivot very quickly and the need to build capabilities very quickly with limited budget. And I think one of the benefits of one of the many benefits of these low-code platforms is that you can do just that. These platforms allow you to stand up new capability in a matter of, and I will dare to say days versus months. One example was, we worked with a large federal agency who had, agency employees all over the world. And when the pandemic first hit, there was a big concern about the safety of their employees overseas. And so we actually helped within a matter of days stand up a capability within a low-code platform to start to track where those employees were, the process of getting those employees back to the country and making sure that they were safe. And so that was a huge benefit to the agency that normally wouldn't have had that capability nor the need to track that in such a quick manner. The other thing that we're now seeing now that things are kind of reopening is using low-code platforms to kind of return to work. When we're doing it at KPMG as well, we're using a low-code platform to, as folks need to go into the office, we're making sure that, they're filling out health surveys. We're integrating it with our physical security systems to make sure that we're tracking who's coming and going. We're making sure that if there is an issue or a case, these low-code platforms allow for case management, very dynamic case management and workflow. So if there is an issue, whether it's hey, the office wasn't cleaned properly, or hey, we've got a case of COVID, we're able to use these low-code platforms very quickly to track a lot of these things that normally, again, we wouldn't have had a need for. So that's really been helpful as well. And then the other thing we've had to do, and many organizations have had to do this, is onboarding new employees and new contractors. And historically, you would walk around the office and get your laptop and fill out some forms and make sure you get your ID badge. Well, we've had to do that remotely. And so again, these low-code platforms have allowed us the extensibility and the speed to enhance those processes, to make them digital so that folks don't have to come into a physical location. We can send everything to them. We can track the status. We can offboard employees appropriately through these platforms and workflow enabled capabilities. So this whole idea of trying to get to the virtual workforce through these digital platforms has really increased the demand for these services, and frankly, it's out of necessity versus out of want. So we're really excited about what these platforms can do for us.
Just in case if people are not familiar with low-code platforms, walk me through why or how they work a little bit, because it seems to me like, oh, so I don't have to do a lot of coding to make this happen. So where am I getting the capabilities? Do they just exist in the ether? Do they exist through APIs? Did someone else write them and I'm just tweaking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it provides a platform from which to develop apps. And I think, as I mentioned before in the prior segment, a lot of the coding has been kind of done in a way that there's a wrapper around it. It's more object oriented. So if you need to do an interface or an API, it's click and drag versus having to develop code to develop that integration, whether it's in Python or you name the language. So it allows kind of more of a citizen developer approach to these solutions, and so it simplifies the development of the capability, but it also increases the time to value, or excuse me, reduces the time to value and increases the value to the customer more quickly. So So you're not starting from scratch. You've got a platform with a baseline from which to pull these different capabilities from. So it's a really effective way to, as I mentioned before, um, stand up a capability very quickly without having to pull in a bunch of developers and start from scratch. So it's that object oriented development, that without much code. I mean, there's some code that we do have to use in some cases, but it's much less than 10 years ago when we were developing stuff in Java from scratch. So it's a much more extensible solution and platform.
Hence the name LowCode.
There you go.
There you go. Like, there's sometimes names work out well.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears just a little bit, because one of the things we keep talking about, bots and intelligent automation and low code, no code, there's still a security issue that comes up. And I remember early on when I was writing and covering RPA and intelligent automation, there was a lot of concern of, well, do these bots need some kind of PIV card? Do we need to get them security training? And I know NASA and GSA were among the leaders, kind of, okay, I think we do. And then eventually everyone kind of took a half a step back and say, I'm not sure we do anymore because of this reason. What are you seeing from the security side of this discussion?
Yeah, that's a very, very important consideration. I'd say, 2, 3, 4 years ago when we were having discussions with this technology on the agenda, a lot of agencies had those concerns. Wait a minute, again, I hear the term bots, I hear the term automation. It makes me nervous as a CISO, and so I need to understand it more. The other thing that I think OMB did was they opened the door a bit more to non-person entity access. So I think that was a lot of the top cover that agencies needed to make sure that if we do a bot, we are within the framework and policies that are out there. But yeah, these are considerations that have to be addressed, and you really have to make sure that, I mentioned governance before, you really have to make sure that you're following the appropriate agency processes. And when we implement automations, we're not just doing it, kind of willy-nilly. We're following an agile process. We're doing testing. We're doing, process design documents, technical design documents. There are many IT projects in and of themselves, and we build security into each automation. And frankly, if we don't, when the inspectors general come in, they're going to want to look at that and say, you've got a bot, implemented here. What are your controls over that bot? So, a great example is the whole idea of a CAT card or a PIV card. Historically, that would have been a challenge for a purely logical automation. Well, there's architectures out there that allow for you to essentially mimic a PIV or a CAT card in a secure vault. So now the automations can operate in that DoD space or space where you're operating, PII or PHI through those hardware security modules that are out there. So the discussions we're having now versus 4 years ago, folks are more comfortable with it. And again, that thanks to OMB and others that have kind of embraced the technology and said this is a way to meet President's management agenda and reduction of low value work, and making sure that you have a framework in place and top cover from a policy perspective.
I very much enjoyed the non-person entity memo when it came out under the Identity and Access Management update. I thought that was a great use of words. All of this is leading to better decisions, and the way agencies get better decisions is not just the data, but the kind of the technology around it. And in many cases, it happens to be artificial intelligence, machine learning. What are you seeing about how agencies are now moving up that maturity ladder to kind of apply these emerging, if you will, technologies on top of intelligent automation to make it, if you will, more intelligent?
Yeah, a lot of agencies recognize that developing these capabilities from scratch isn't the most efficient way to do it. You look at the large cloud providers out there, and a lot of the large cloud providers are allowing agencies to tap into these capabilities as part of their infrastructure solutions. So if you want to, pull in a machine learning algorithm that's going to do something for you, you can actually pull that directly from lack of a better term, an API store. It's very much been kind of parsed out. So for certain capabilities, you can use those capabilities, and then it's per the drink. The license cost is every time I hit that API, I pay the fee, and it's a very minor fee. So what's happening is all these things are starting to converge, where you've got the infrastructure, the cloud providers, allowing you access to some of these more advanced capabilities through APIs. you're also having the low-code vendors implementing some of these APIs to access some of those capabilities. And then you've got also the RPA providers implementing low-code and API into their platforms. So there's this convergence, among the software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service to basically give the customer choices. So there's really no need to develop these standalone machine learning algorithms unless it's for a very specific purpose that may have a mission need. But if it's for something like natural language understanding, natural language processing, natural language generation, a lot of these things are, I don't want to say pre-canned, but they're built so and just need to be tweaked based on the data sets you're looking at, the taxonomy of the data, and that sort of thing. So it's really allowed better access to more advanced solutions with increased control, because these solutions have been built already, they've been tested, and so you can kind of trust a bit more that these proven solutions versus something you're building from scratch.
I think that choice is so important for agencies to know when they're going in to say, oh, okay, we can just tweak it, as you said. We can just kind of, okay, how does this match up to the data we need it to process versus having to write it from scratch? That saves so much time. We can talk more about AI. There's a whole supply chain issue. There's trust. But Kirk, we're almost out of time. So before I let you go, what's the big takeaway from our conversation today? What we've seen is agencies are up the maturity framework. They're doing more with RPA, more with intelligent automation. They're getting better about it. Most are moving out of the proof of concept. What are things they should keep in mind as they continue to advance their program and take more advantage of these technologies?
Yeah, I think recognizing where the market is going, and by market I mean the vendors out there that are providing these technologies, they're adding more and more capability every day. And 4 years ago it was just pure RPA, right? Now there's so many more opportunities and capabilities built into a lot of these low code and RPA vendor solutions that you really your imagination is the limit as far as the use cases that you can intake. So I think understanding the capabilities and their evolution in the past 3 to 4 years is important for agencies to understand what they can truly optimize out of these capabilities. The other piece is making sure that you have that governance in place to manage, and I don't want to say just intelligent automation, but essentially digital transformation. Again, if it's one thing that the recent pandemic has taught us, is that we really need to be more digital in how we interact with our workforce, how we interact with internal and external stakeholders and citizens, to be more efficient and effective. And these low code, these digital platforms are providing that opportunity, but they have to be done in a controlled manner. And so allowing the right stakeholders, allowing the right security frameworks, allowing the right business models to be in place is really important so having that governance model is critical. And then finally, it's persistence. I think, again, going back to my example before about this whole automation redux, if you do that pilot, if you're starting out there, scale quickly and scale fast, because you're only going to see the benefits of these automation solutions and these digital transformations if you're persistent and you have the right folks at the table. So it's an exciting time. Obviously, it's a unique time for us, but it creates a lot of opportunities for us.
I think that message around persistence is important. If you do a lot of stops and starts, you're eventually not going to see the benefits that this automation that is obviously giving to a lot of agencies and getting them to kind of really change their business processes. Kirk, we could talk a lot longer, but unfortunately we are out of time for today. So let me thank my guest. Kirk Everson is the Principal and Government Intelligent Automation Leader at KPMG. Kirk, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for your time, Jason.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion, Modern Government, Emerging Trends in Intelligent Automation in a Time of Rapid Change, sponsored by KPMG on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search KPMG.